is an accident. Riches take wings. Those who cheer you today may curse you tomorrow. And only one thing endures: character. That's a quote from Harry Truman. Jim, God bless you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, the way I had the privilege of meeting you is the way I get to meet a lot of people. I have written 47 books, I think now. 8 of them have been turned into movies. And in all of my books, there are 10 million of them in print. I have my contact info. And I've had publishers and other authors tell me for years, you can't do that. Well, I beg to differ. I've been doing it for 25 years, and I return all my calls, and I'm available to people. But you have to manage expectations and intentions. You have to have your yes be yes and your no be no. Because when you have 10 million people, all of whom you've given a free invitation to call you, and they've done nothing more than read one of your books, you have to be prepared to become your word. Because no matter what message I give in one of my books or my movies, if I tell people you can call me and they find out you can't, well, then everything else I said before that in the book or the movie doesn't really matter. And, as a blind person myself, the most debilitating thing about being blind is not the fact that you can't see. It's that no one has any expectations of you. If I did nothing with my life and sat in a room by myself and played the radio, people would say, well, that's good. At least he can play the radio and he does that. They don't expect me to, start a television network and, write a syndicated column and 40 some odd books and 8 movies and give arena speeches and, become a multimillionaire and do all the things that have happened to me. You have to be internally motivated. And as a very young man, I had the blessing of having a mentor named Lee Braxton. He was quite elderly at the time, and he had a 3rd grade education and had become a multimillionaire during the Great Depression. And I wanted him to just give me the shortcut, the simple way. How do you get rich? And he made me read Think and Grow Rich and made me read it 3 times. And that connection is how you and I met, because I didn't know that at the time, but Lee Braxton was Napoleon Hill's best friend. He gave the eulogy at Hill's funeral, and they were friends for 30 plus years. Well, among all those things he taught me were not, I thought if I buy some penny stock or get into some business or some little trick, some secret. And he said, well, if you really want to know how to get rich, get out a pencil and paper. Here's the thing. Number 1, and it was number 1, always do what you say. And then we went on into deliver more than you promise. We went into create value in the lives of other people. We went into avoid excuses, all those things. But number 1 was you do what you say you're going to do. Otherwise, no one will ever do business with you. I mean, you do what you say you're going to do. And that does a couple of things for you, Steve. Number 1, it makes you become known as a person of honor. But number 2, it makes you very careful what you tell people you're going to do. And, we in our society avoid telling people, no, I'm not going to do that. And, we always want to come up with some excuse why we can't do what they want us to do. And so we kind of have these halfway commitments to too many things. And, I do 1 speech for free for every one I get paid for. And when I do an arena speech, I make more money than the average family of 4 that lives in my state does in a whole year. I make that for an hour on stage. So when I'm willing to go out for charity and do them for free, we have a lot of demand for those, and we have to come up with a system that works. Well, I was reticent for years to tell people no. So I'd say, well, I'm not free on that date or whatever. And, ironically, people would move their whole convention to fit my schedule. And then I found out, I'm not doing a good job. Then Oprah said something I'll never forget. She said, "You don't owe people an explanation. You owe them the truth." So when people would ask Oprah, "Can you come and make this appearance on the 18th?" she would either say yes, or she would say, "No, that's not going to work for me." And you don't owe them anything else. But what you do owe them is your yes is yes and your no is no. And that, more than any single thing, will change your world, because people would commit to far fewer things if they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt they were going to have to do all these things. Now, right now, as you and I are having this conversation, and I know this show will be evergreen because people will watch it or hear it many years from now, but as you and I are speaking, it's Holy Week, and we're in the middle of the corona virus crisis right now. And a lot of people, because of this pandemic, are not able to keep their word. And but the minute you're not able to keep your word, you owe the people you have given your word to an explanation and some way to work it out. There are people that, through no fault of their own, they're not able to make their mortgage payment. They're not able to make their rent payment. They're not able to be places and do things they promised they would be and do. Those things happen. I wish I could control everything, but I can't. And those things happen. But the minute you know you're not going to be able to keep your word, you've got to protect your word. And you go out to those people. Number one, you admit, I gave you my word, and because of these conditions beyond my control, I'm not going to be able to do that. So let's come up with something I can do to create value for you and for me to fulfill the obligation I gave to you. And those are very, very important things to do, particularly during difficult times. And, we forget that quite often, but we owe those people those things. And I just would encourage people to be very cautious when you give your word, because you're going to keep it. And you've got to write those down. I have been in meetings, Stephen, I know you have too, where I have seen guys promise to be 2 or 3 places all at the same time on the same day. And they give their word easily and they break their promises just as easily. Well, anything I promise to anyone, whether it's you or millions of my readers or anything else, it goes into a book in writing. And because my word is important to me more than it's probably important to the people around me. Because most of the lies we tell, Steve, are lies we tell ourselves. We tell ourselves lies, and then we accept that untruth and share it with the world. But if you know you're going to do everything you say you're going to do, change that. And the same thing happens whether you make a goal or a New Year's resolution or anything else. When you promise yourself something, you got to keep your word to yourself. Hey, I said I would do this, and I need to get out there and do that. And probably the most important thing, anybody that has children, or if you interact with kids in any way, your word has got to be gold. It has got to be gold, good and bad. If you tell them, you do this good thing and I'm going to do something good for you, or you break this rule and you're going to have to deal with the consequences. In both cases, your word has got to become reality for those young people. So, I think that is probably the most important thing we could ever do to build success and then to keep success. You got to be your word.
Jim, I thank you for that message. I want to come back to something that I'm sitting here that I want to make sure I pointed out to you. When I talked to you and invited you to do this interview, you had recommended a book to me we talked about the baseball season not going on this year, and we actually talked on opening day this year. And that's when I found out about your love for baseball. I didn't know about your love for baseball. I know about your love for football. And you wrote another book on baseball. Actually, I apologize for the way I said that. Your most recent book, Will to Win in Your Homecoming historical series, it's about baseball, and it's a wonderful book. And so I called you, and it was opening day of this season, with the baseball season being canceled, at least indefinitely. And we started talking about it, and you said to me right away, "Have you read The 12th Angel, Og Mandino's book?" And so I said no, but I got it right away on an ebook, and it's coming to me, but its shipping's delayed. It'll be like 2 months before I get it. But right. I did have that book. I read that book when it first came out because I was coaching Coach Pitch. I coached a lot of Little League baseball and so forth. And Jim, in 2000, that's a good year for you. That's the year that you received the International Humanitarian of the Year award, if I'm correct, in 2000. Well, on my desk right here is a little teeny marble stand with a baseball glove, and it says the Athletics 2000. Thanks for Coach Steve for a great season. And I have a baseball, and it's been sitting on my desk since 2000, and I see it every day of my life when I'm sitting at my desk. And it gives me such inspiration. But I want to tell you kind of how things work. The book that got me started with you is One Season of Hope. It's the story of Bradley Hope. And it's all about hope. And Harry Truman's got all kinds of quotes in there. Harry Truman's phenomenal. But the name, I got every kid that was on that team in these little 6-7-year-old signatures. Coach Pitch. We had this one little girl on there, and she was the one that she couldn't swing a bat. Even with Coach Pitch, you couldn't get her to even hit a ball. I sacrificed my life with this young girl. I got within 4 feet of her, almost to where, I could take the ball and extend it and just flip it 4 or 5 inches into her bat. And the fear that everybody had, my people used to say, "Steve, she's going to hit it one day and it's going to kill you." Well, her name was Hope. So that's all I can tell you on that story, is that, Jim, there's an expression that I picked up early out, what goes around comes around, and things of that nature. And so, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my life. And you and I share a lot. You told a little bit just now about how nobody expected too much of you because of your blindness, and but yet you have just done phenomenal things. So I want to talk in that area just for a minute here. On page 160 of One Season of Hope, the coach says to his team when they're getting ready to play in the state championship game, which is kind of dedicated to Bradley Hope, "You've exceeded everyone's expectations but mine. You can win this game." And then he went on to say this, and this is so profound. This is Coach Glenn Fullerton, who is created by you. "For the rest of this game and for the rest of your life, always give it your all and leave your best out there on the field. You never want to be one of those sad souls who goes through life wondering, what if?" Now go out there, give it your best, because your best is always good enough, and I'll always be proud of every one of you. Coach Glenn Fullerton. Well, this series that we're finishing up right now, it started with Don Green giving me permission to use Napoleon Hill's famous 57 alibis by Old Man If. If is an amazing word. If. And, we all use if sometimes, but we want to minimize that. And so, I'd like to give you an opportunity to say anything else that you would like to, and then I can close out the show with just a couple more thoughts. But, Jim, I guess what I'm saying is, often in my life, because of my illnesses and my restrictions, it's very, very hard during this coronavirus for people. I'm in a very, very high risk category because of my immune system cancer, multiple myeloma, and I'm in I got lots of other diagnoses that are at the top of the risk list. chronic bronchitis, a respiratory